What's going on, guys? Arrow here, and guys, today I want to talk to you a little more about the starter Pokemon from the Alola region. So now, even though that the only information we know for these Pokemon came from the original trailer, which was shown to us months ago, I think there's still a lot to talk for these Pokemon, and so in this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about how I think that the evolutions are going to turn out for the starter Pokemon, as well as what typings they might have, and what kind of stats they might have as well. So before we get started, please keep in mind that everything I do say in this video is just my opinion, so if you guys have different thoughts on how you think that the starter Pokemon are going to turn out, definitely comment them down below, and I'll be sure to reply to you guys and see what you have to say. But let's get on to the first starter Pokemon, Rowlett. So Rowlett definitely seems to be a favorite right now among everybody, and I think Rowlett's going to turn out to be an amazing Pokemon when it evolves to its final evolution. So judging from what it talks about for Rowlett, it talks about how Rowlett can, move without making a sound, and it's like a silent flyer. So it really gives that sort of, ninja-like type of vibe, but I don't think that Game Freak's gonna make Rowlett into like a ninja type of owl, because they just made Greninja in Pokemon X and Y. I really don't think they'd want to go for another ninja type of Pokemon, considering Greninja's only like 3 years old. So I think that we'll still get a, cool Pokemon. I just don't think it's gonna be like a ninja owl like a lot of people are predicting. But Rowlett also is shown to be attacking a lot using its physical moves. It doesn't look like it's going to be a special attacker. If you read about it online, it talks about how Rowlett usually, lashes out powerful kicks and stuff like that. So it really looks like Rowlett's like a physical attacking Pokemon, and it makes sense because owls are, Pokemon that like swoop in and swoop down and like, attack using their sharp talons. So this concept art made by someone here gives a good idea of how I think Rowlett's evolution will turn out. Those sharp claws or sharp talons really give an idea that it's going to be like a physical attacking Pokemon. I can see Rowlett using a good amount of physical moves, like Brave Bird and stuff like that. I can really see it becoming a cool Pokemon, and I think Rowlett's going to have a high attack stat and probably a high speed stat, making it a really fast attacking Pokemon, and yeah, I think it'll be a really cool Pokemon. As for Rowlett's typing, I think that Rowlett's typing is going to be grass flying. I think it's just going to continue staying like that, but there were a few leaks a while back saying that Rowlett's actually going to turn into a grass and ground type, and I don't see that happening at all. But then again, Game Freak loves to throw us curveballs, and we've seen that, guys, so many times. They love to throw us curveballs, so if they make an owl go from a flying type to a ground type, I'm not going to be surprised. But I definitely think that it will just remain a grass and flying type. I don't think an owl would go from a flying to a ground type, but then again, like I said, Game Freak loves throwing us those curveballs. I mean, they made Solgaleo not a fire type, so obviously it could change, but I think Rowlett's probably just gonna stay a grass and flying type. And yeah, I think it'll be a really cool Pokemon. It'll be a nice attacking Pokemon using physical moves and having a high speed stat. And yeah, one thing I really hope that they do is, if Rowlett turns out to be a physical attacking Pokemon, I really hope they introduce to us more physical grass type moves, because there's not that many good physical grass type moves, and like the only ones I can think of right now that are good are Seed Bomb, Wood Hammer, and Leaf Blade. I don't think there's even any more like other than that. So I really need to see some more physical grass type moves, because if Rowlett's going to be a physical grass Pokemon, we need to have more physical grass type moves. Alright, next we're moving on to Linton. And now, Linton's one of those Pokemon that a lot of people are also picking on their team. I think Popplio is like the only one that a lot of people aren't liking that much, or like Popplio is just the one that's getting not a lot of people to like it. But anyway, Linton I think is going to be a really cool Pokemon, and I think that Linton's actually going to turn out to be a tiger. And the only reason I'm saying that, I'm almost willing to confirm that with you guys, that Linton's going to turn out to be some sort of tiger Pokemon. And the only reason I'm saying that is because something that some of you guys may not know is that pretty much every single starter Pokemon that's a fire type that we've had so far is based off of the Chinese Zodiac. And if you guys don't know what the Chinese Zodiac is, basically every year in China for like the new year, they have a new animal. And there's a whole bunch of animals that, they could possibly have, and they go around. So once the last animal gets chosen, it goes back up to the top again. So right now, on screen, I'm going to put up for you all the animals that are on the Chinese Zodiac. So we have a rat, an ox, a tiger, a rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. Alright, so these are all the animals that are in the Chinese Zodiac, right? Now, if we look at every single fire type starter that we've had from, Gen 1 all the way to up to Gen 7, I'm almost telling you right now that all the Pokemon line up perfectly. Watch. If we go from Charizard, then we're going to go to Typhlosion, then we're going to go to Blaziken, now we're going to Infernape, then we're going to Emboar, now we're going to Delphox, and now we're going to Linton, which is going to be a tiger. And that just makes sense, you know, you can see like the stripes on Linton's feet. It just makes sense that it's going to turn out to be a tiger, and you know, it doesn't really fit into any of these other animals here. But look at that, pretty much you have to admit every single animal or every single fire type, you know, lines up with an animal. Now I know you can say like some aren't, you know, debatable, like, you know, Delphox isn't really a dog, but like they're not so different that you can't say that they're close at all. You know, they're definitely close. A dog and a fox aren't so off that they wouldn't work. But, you know, pretty much everything else matches up. You know, like, you know, Charizard is a dragon. Typhlosion, you know, Cyndaquil was a mouse, so it's definitely like a rodent. And then, you know, Blaziken is a rooster. You know, Torchic is a chicken. Infernape is definitely a monkey. You know, there's nothing to say for that one. Emboar is definitely a pig. Tepig. You know, and then what was the last one? Delphox. Yeah, I just talked about Delphox. So yeah, it really makes sense to me. You know, I think that this is just really cool. But then again, we don't know for sure because, you know, Delphox and the dog aren't, you know, completely close to each other. But I definitely do think that that the fire type starters are based off of the Chinese zodiac. But look at all the animals that are left here now. These are definitely some unique animals. So I guess you can say that if we get any type of starter from the next generation, if we get any of these like weird looking animals, or not weird looking animals, but if we get any of these unusual animals, then you can definitely assume that the Chinese zodiac plays a role in the fire type starter Pokemon. So yeah, if you ever see like a fire snake starter Pokemon, then you know that it's probably based off the Chinese zodiac. So yeah, as for Linton's typing, I think Linton is just going to be a pure fire type. I think that's what it should be. We haven't had a pure fire type since Typhlosion, I'm pretty sure. I think Typhlosion is the only pure fire type. One thing I don't want is please don't make another fire and fighting type. You don't know how tired I'm getting of making just fire and fighting type. Like, it was cool with Blaziken, you know? Like, a unique fire and fighting type for Blaziken was cool. But then doing the same thing for Infernape, you know, I was like, okay, I guess Infernape makes sense because, you know, the monkeys are always like, you know, really like fast and like, you know, they're always like fighting. But then they did it with Emboar too. It was a pig and they did the same thing. So then I was getting really sick and tired of just having fire and fighting type starters. So I can't see Linton turning out to be a fire and fighting type. I just don't see it anyway. But please don't make it somehow that it turns out to be a fire and fighting type. I really just want Linton to be a pure fire type, or maybe you can put some other type of, you know, some other type that would make sense for it, but I think a pure fire type is fine anyway either. So yeah, as for Linton's stats, I definitely think that Linton's going to be a special attacker. It just makes a lot of sense to me. A lot of fire types are special attackers anyway, you know, Typhlosion and Charizard and all of them. And Linton can learn, you know, good amount of fire type moves, I'm pretty sure, and it's gonna learn a lot of moves, and a lot of fire type moves are special moves, like, you know, like Fire Blast and Flamethrower and all of those. And, you know, considering how it shows, like, you know, if you read about Linton's entry, it talks about how Linton likes using, you know, fur balls and like using them as projectiles, so it really makes it seem like, you know, it likes using special moves. So I think it'll have a high special attack stat, it will be a pure fire type, and I'm almost willing to confirm that it's going to be a tiger Pokemon. Alright, moving on to the last starter Pokemon, Popplio. I think Popplio is a really cool Pokemon as well, even though it's not getting a lot of love right now. I think Popplio is a really cool Pokemon, and yeah, I think Popplio will turn out to be a really cool Pokemon as well. This concept art made by someone here gives a good idea. I think Popplio is actually going to be one of those like tanky Pokemon, because it, you know, it mentions how like Popplio isn't like a fast mover on the land, and you know, I think it'll make sense that Popplio turns out to be sort of like a bulky Pokemon with like a high defense stat and a high like a little high special defense stat as well. I think it'll be like a cool tanky Pokemon that could take a good amount of hits, but I think it'll be able to deal out a good amount of damage as well. And I mean, there were a few leaks, or I think the leaks told us that Popplio was going to turn into a water and fighting type. Now, I have no idea if that's true. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. But maybe it might turn out to be a water and fighting type. I think that would be a really cool idea for a starter Pokemon. I think the only other two Pokemon that we have that are water fighting is Keldeo and Poliwrath. I don't think we have any other water fighting types. So yeah, having a water fighting type is definitely a cool idea, and I think that would definitely make Popplio a really cool Pokemon as well. I think if it just stayed a pure water type, that's fine as well, because a lot of water types are just pure and water, pure water types. But I mean, if it's a water fighting, that's a cool idea. One thing that I I do want to mention though is if you guys watch the E3 live like treehouse demonstration for Pokemon Sun and Moon, it mentioned how, or like it showed how Popplio grew to level like 8, I'm pretty sure, and then it learned the move like Disarming Voice, and that's obviously a fairy type move. So now a lot of people are like saying, you know, Popplio water fairy confirmed, like, you know, it's gonna be water fairy. And I'm telling you guys, like, just because he learns Disarming Voice, you can't just jump to a conclusion like that and say that it's gonna be a water fairy type. You know, it's just one of those like extra moves that it learns that's a different type. You know, like let me see if I can find an example. If you ever played, I think what is it? Pokemon Fire Red, I'm pretty sure Charmander can learn Metal Claw, and Charizard's obviously not a Fire and Steel type, so yeah, I think it's just like one of those extra moves it can learn. Yeah, like Charmander can learn Metal Claw, but Charizard's not a Fire and Steel type, so it's like one of those moves. Like, you know, Popplio can learn Disarming Voice, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a Fairy type. So yeah, I think Popplio would just be a really cool tanky Pokemon. I think it'll be, you know, a pure Water type. I would want it to be a pure Water type, but judging from the leaks, I think a Water Fighting type could be a really cool combination for this Pokemon as well. And yeah, I think it'll turn out to be like a really cool, bulky looking, you know, like Steel Pokemon, like the art that's shown here for you guys. And yeah, I think that that'll look really cool. So what do you guys think that the evolutions are going to turn out for these starter Pokemon? Do you agree with my ideas, or do you want to see some other ways for these starter Pokemon to turn out? Definitely comment them down below, and I'll be sure to reply to you guys and see what you have to say. Do you also like the typings that I chose for these starter Pokemon? If you want to see the starter Pokemon have other types, also comment those down below as well. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please click that like button because it really does help me out. And as always, if you're hyped for Pokemon Sun and Moon like I am, and just want some more Pokemon content on this channel, please click that subscribe button for more information or for more content. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.